For the 14th of December officially open. I'd like to remind everyone that in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, other than the public forum section, this meeting is being live streamed. I would like to invite Reverend Matthew Bales of Liverpool South Anglican Church to read the prayer of council and the acknowledgement of country. Could I invite everyone to please stand?
Before we begin proceedings, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and their ancestors past and present. The Carbrogal clan of the Darug Nation. I also acknowledge that this land was accessed by peoples of the Darawal and Darug nations. And the affirmation of council. We affirm our hope and dedication to the good government of our city and the well-being of all Liverpool's residents, no matter their race or creed. Tonight we affirm our hope for sound decision-making by council, which will improve the quality of life in our city. We express our expectations and best wishes for Australia, our nation's future, the mayor, councillors and staff of council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. And it says prayer of council. Am I praying that or am I praying my own prayer or both? Both, okay. Let's pray. For the God of our faith, we who are gathered at Liverpool City Council pray for the good government of our city. We pray for the well-being of all Liverpool residents, no matter their race, gender or creed. Tonight we pray for sound decision-making by council, which can improve the quality of life in our city. And we pray for Australia, our nation's future, for the mayor, councillors and staff of council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. Amen. Let's keep praying. I urge you then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, intercessions and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. This is good and pleases God our Saviour, who wants all people to be saved and come to a knowledge of the truth. Gracious Lord, all authority comes from you, and you appoint people to positions of power and authority over us in order that they may serve in public life. Please give our governments wisdom and skill, imagination and energy. Protect them from corruption and the temptation to serve themselves. Help all of us to commit ourselves to the common good, so that our land may be a secure home for all its peoples. Today we especially pray for the council, the mayor, the councillors and all the staff involved in this meeting. May their decisions be based on wise counsel, so that peace and welfare, truth and justice may prevail among us. And we pray that flowing out of Liverpool, we may be a blessing to other parts of Australia and other nations as well. And we pray all of this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page let
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Do we have any apologies? I know Councillor Goodman is trying to log on. Not sure if he has yet. He's online. And on that note, can we have a motion to allow Councillor Goodman to participate online? Yeah, move Councillor Calienda, seconded Councillor McNaught. All in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we have 3 condolences today. And I'd like to start with the first one, a former councillor and former Member of Parliament, Miss Alison McGarity. Today we pause to honour the memory of Alison McGarity, who passed away on the 15th of November 2022 at the age of 61. Alison was a former councillor of Liverpool City Council, serving 1 term from 1994 to 1999, before being elected to the new seat of Menai in 1999. During that period, she advocated strongly for the area and is credited with helping to have several major infrastructure delivered. They include the high-level Warren-Orr Bridge, the Bangor Bypass Stage 1 and Stage 2, and the Alfords Point duplication. Along with the multi-million-dollar road and bridge projects she helped deliver, her other achievements included successful lobbying for upgrades to local schools and the redevelopment of Liverpool Hospital. She would hold the seat of Menai for the next 12 years until she retired at the 2011 election to care for her husband Robert during a period of ill health. To echo the thoughts of one of her parliamentary colleagues, Barry Collier, Alison was the epitome of the very best local MP, always putting her constituents ahead of personal ambition and serving her community with vigour and energy and passion few could match. In her 1999 inaugural speech, Alison promised to represent her constituents without fear or favour. She touched the lives of many people and will be remembered as a very special, selfless person who gave so much of herself. In her final speech to the House in 2011, Alison said, "I know in my own heart I could not have worked any harder." Alison was very well liked and very well respected by colleagues on both sides of Parliament and truly made a difference to the community she represented. After she left Parliament, Alison worked tirelessly as President and Secretary of the Former Members Association, a voluntary, non-partisan organisation which raises issues of concern with current members and donates annually to the New South Wales Children's Charity. Alison is survived by her husband Robert and her sons Liam and Glenn. On behalf of Liverpool City Council, I humbly express my deepest condolences to her and her family and friends. Our thoughts and prayers are with Alison's loved ones during this difficult time. May she rest in peace. And I will leave the minutes of silence to the end altogether.
Mayor, can I request that we formally write to Alison's family with a copy of the condolence motion and an expression of condolence, because the Environment Committee has also moved its own motion of condolence for Alison, who was a very active, local person in the environmental space as well.
Yep, I'm sure the staff can note that and have that done. The next condolence motion is for Mr. William James Masterton, OAM, also known as Jim Masterton. Today we pause to honour the memory of William James Masterton, OAM, known as Jim Masterton, who passed away peacefully at his home on the 16th of November 2022, just short of his 93rd birthday. 60 years ago in 1962, Jim founded the Masterton Building Company and worked tirelessly to create a building empire that has delivered 60,000 homes to Australian families across New South Wales. Jim was an innovator at heart and a true pioneer of the Australian building industry. He transformed the home building market with the introduction of pre-assembled trusses and frames, as well as pioneering the use of concrete slabs and introducing the concept of knock-down rebuild. All these innovations are now standard in the housing industry. One of his biggest achievements was to open the Warwick Farm Field of Dreams display village in 1983, with the then Premier of New South Wales, Mr. Neville Wran, in attendance. In 2005, Jim received an Order of Australia Medal in the Queen's Birthday Honours list in recognition of his significant contribution to the housing industry. He was also presented with a life membership status by the HIA. Jim also became the most awarded builder in Australia, something he was immensely proud of. "I'm Jim Masterton, and I wouldn't have it any other way," he was widely known as saying. It is this iconic slogan that summed up Jim's long life values and of quality of home building. He was a true icon and achieved more in his lifetime than most would ever in dozens of lifetimes. He provided incomes and business opportunities for thousands of local people in the building industry and was highly regarded to anyone who knew him. Today, the Masterton Group employs hundreds of full-time staff and contractors. Jim was also one of Liverpool's most generous corporate citizens who supported many local charitable institutions. For many here in Liverpool, Jim built much more than homes. He built a better quality of life. On behalf of Liverpool City Council, I humbly express my deepest condolences to Jim's wife Marjorie, his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and his extended family and friends. Our thoughts and prayers are with Jim's loved ones during this difficult time. Our last condolence motion is one that's very close to home for us all here today, and it's regarding Miss Ellen Whittingstall. And today we pause to honour her memory, who passed away last month. Ellen joined council in 2017 as the coordinator of governance, and in 2020 she moved into the role of internal ombudsman. Ellen was a valued member of our organisation who was dedicated, hardworking, and committed to helping everyone, whilst embedding good governance. Anyone that worked with her would agree that she was an expert in her field who was respected by many. Ellen will be remembered for her loving and caring nature, but most of all, for putting others' needs before her own. She will be dearly missed by her colleagues, family, and friends. On behalf of Liverpool City Council, I'd like to humbly express my deepest condolences to Ellen's husband, family, and friends. Our thoughts and prayers are with the loved ones during this difficult time. May she rest in peace. And if I could please... And if anyone has anything to say, but if not, I'd like to move that we have a minute of silence. Thank you, everyone. If everyone could please rise. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. The next item is the confirmation of the minutes of our previous meeting held on the 16th of November and the extraordinary meeting held on the 6th of November.
Move it.
Moved, Deputy Mayor.
Second.
Seconded, Councillor Rhodes. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Are there any declarations of interest?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
All right.
Quick,
I'll go.
quick.
Councillor McNaught, thank you. Oh, and then, did you say you had one or? Oh,
No,
sorry.
I do.
Councillor Rhodes?
Will I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yep, I would just like to declare an interest in Confo 4, non-pecuniary, less than significant. It's just that I know some of the candidates on a higher level, although I've not personally, could be classified as personally, but I choose not to participate in the debate and I will leave the room.
Thank you. Councillor Haggerty?
Same as Councillor Rhodes, so Confo 4 obviously know a couple of the nominees through my work in the community as a councillor. Less than significant, non-pecuniary, I'll stay in the room. And also Com 01, I am an ordinary member of the Historical Society. So again, less than significant, non-pecuniary, and for that one I will leave the room.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd also like to declare an interest, same as Councillors Haggerty and Rhodes. In Confo 4, I will not leave the room for that one. And Com 01, I know a couple of the applicant organisations through my work in the community, and I'm also an ordinary member of the City of Liverpool and District Historical Society, and I will leave the room for that one.
Thank you.
Sorry, non-pecuniary and less than significant for both.
No. Right. We'll now move on to the public forum. And I'd like to, we have 3 speakers today. I would like to firstly invite Miss Emma Eldridge, who would like to discuss Liverpool Pioneers Memorial Park. Is Miss Eldridge here today? No? No. All right. Not being here. We'll now move into the agenda for today. The first item is Plan 01, page 84, tab 1, with the recommendation on page 85.
I move to move that with a right to reply. As per the motion in the book, the recommendation in the book.
The recommendation?
Yep.
Yep. Do you have a seconder? Seconder, Councillor McNaught. Any discussion?
If I may.
You can speak for your motion, Councillor.
First of all, I'd like to thank Kate for her address to Council, and I do appreciate the reconsideration on this matter. But, you know, I need to point out that this is not an aesthetic request. It's a matter of safety of our residents. It is advised that high voltage lines of this capacity, they advise them to go underground. I think if this was being done somewhere else, and let's just say, for an example, the North Shore, it would not even be attempted to put them above ground. Liverpool is not a second-class city, and it does not have second-class citizens. We are soon to be a global city where our city will be on display to the world. We have to take pride on how our city is presented. It is not acceptable that we permit the perception just because we are Liverpool, our residents are less deserving of having their safety concerns met. I point out that this power infrastructure is required to bring the power necessary for the intermodal site to operate. Why should Liverpool residents' lives in Junction Road have any questions regarding their safety because of the needs of the intermodal infrastructure and the will of the state government and or that of the electrical supply company? In my opinion, this should not even be being considered. It is that it should be recommended for this degree of voltage lines that they should be underground, and that should be without questions. Our residents' lives deserve safety. Their safety does matter. These lines should be underground. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor McNaught?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to thank staff for their work on this report and for taking the lead in the advocacy for the residents of Junction Road. I know how passionate they are about this, and I encourage everybody to support the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it unanimous. Next item is Plan 02, page 91, tab 2, with the recommendation on page 92, the public anniversary artwork.
I have a motion with an amendment.
Yes, Councillor Rhodes?
Basically, as per the book recommendation, although I do believe that a lot of the councillors who are new to this council since the last election have not been given the opportunity to even see the master plan for the upgrade of Lighthorse Park. And I do consider that it would be very prudent of this council to hold a workshop to bring all councillors on board so that everybody knows what that upgrade is about. And I believe that the public art, which is being addressed here, should be addressed in the broad context of that whole project and deliverable at if1, and this should be done prior to spending any money. So if we could just change the motion, number 2, where it says council staff and councillors, in consultation with council staff and councillors and through a workshop so that all councillors can be made familiar with the Lighthorse Upgrade project and consider the public art in a broad context to that total project prior to spending any money.
I'd like to foreshadow a motion.
Just, well, firstly, we need a seconder for Councillor Rhodes' motion.
Don't do it.
Because we had Councillor were you seconding it firstly, Councillor McNaught, or were you seconding that, or? Okay, yeah, sorry.
I second it for the sake of discussion.
Okay. Yep. Councillor, can you hold your question for Councillor Haggerty?
Yeah, I was just going to foreshadow, as per the recommendation, but obviously instead of the acting CEO, I'm sure you're happy for the CEO to do this now. She's not listening. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Just take the acting bit out of the recommendation.
No. So you're saying you don't want a workshop?
No, look, I think we've had a workshop. We've done public consultation. I think it's been up on Liverpool Listens. We've had feedback from councillors, from stakeholders, from the public. Let's get on there and build what will be a wonderful attraction and add to our visitation economy. You know, people can get off at the train and do the treasure hunt. I think it'll be wonderful.
Do you have a seconder for the motion?
I will second,
Councillor Calendar,
but I
yes.
also have a question.
Yeah.
I note that the purpose for this particular project is to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Liverpool. You know, were the initial motion to go ahead, I know we have obviously a period of shutdown and everything coming up. Would we even be able to complete this by the time we finish the 150th year?
No.
Then we fail the purpose of this project.
That's one way of looking at it, and 100%. But it's a matter, I guess, it'll be looked at for the future. But I'll just, if I can refer to the CEO.
Look, thank you. I just want to indicate that there are some obligations which affect timelines. I'm going to ask the Director Tina to explain those obligations. I just want to ensure that any additions in relation to whether it's workshops, etc., does not breach those timelines, because we are under obligation, so that we don't jeopardise the grant that we get.
Thank you. Through the CEO, the current project's in a detailed design process for one part of the phase. That's with our infrastructure and environment team. So, and that will go out to consultation and the like. We're also looking at another component, which is the community facility hub, an integrated hub. So that is also a work in progress. We can come back and do some work with the councillors in regards to consultation and engagement in a workshop, but we do have some time frames that we need to adhere to and obligations under the West Invest grant. Raj, would you like to, our Director of Infrastructure and Environment, might want to expand on that?
Thank you. Through the CEO, absolutely, like the acting CEO has just mentioned, there is a timeline. We are currently on track to complete designs with a view to going to market for construction tenders by the middle of next year, and there's ample opportunity to incorporate, and this is how this project has been planned to be incorporated into the detailed design and construction of the Lighthorse Park upgrade. But having said that, there's ample opportunity to have further conversations with councillors via a briefing or a workshop to present to you I guess the ultimate design that the Lighthorse Park embellishment works will entail.
Councillor Haggerty.
So what I'm hearing here is that staff are able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We can move forward with the process to procure an artist. And while that's happening in parallel, we can have a workshop should councillors want to attend one. We can do that at the same time and not slow things down. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I just have a question to the staff. Just wondering if wouldn't something like this be more suitable at the Pioneers Memorial Park, being it's a memorial park versus a Lighthorse Park, which has a different function?
through the CEO, we enacted on an endorsement from council, a previous endorsement on council for Lighthorse Park. Any variation, if we get a different endorsement today, we can certainly then work through that recommendation.
Lovely. Councillor Green?
Yep, I have a question. I thought that we did have a session on the master plan for when West Invest, when we were about to apply, we had a full briefing at a councillor briefing on the project. So I'm a little confused. I don't know what more we need to know.
I think that the most recent councillors really didn't get the opportunity for input into that particular project that we're doing, and it is out of regard for every opportunity for councillors to have their say that I feel there is no time restriction in any of this. I just think that this is a prudent way of council to conduct business. What we have to do is, if the we need to see where these actual structures are going to be going, and see if it's going to actually work. So that's the reason why I believe that there should be a workshop just to go over this one final time, to tie everything together so that there is a timescale put together so that we know where these sculptures will be going and the work is all done at the one particular time.
All right, great.
Just a suggestion, perhaps the new councillors can speak for themselves if they feel they're not up to speed on this project.
But I'm still confused, because when West Invest, when the application was written, all these things that we're talking about, of where things would be placed, how things were going to be within that master plan, surely would have been put as the case for the application. So I'm having a little bit of trouble in joining the dots on this one. If maybe, Chair, you could help me. I
think, Councillor, my understanding, the Lighthorse Park has been a long term in the making. Detailed design is done. But this is more, if I can refer to the CEO, to the Director of Infrastructure and Assets, but this is more of a recent addition. And I guess the question is, how much has this part integrated into the current design of Lighthorse Park? Because from my understanding, it's fairly new.
They happened at different times.
If I can, through the CEO.
Design was well before this. This is the West Invest section, is it not? This is about the art project, which will be a part of this total upgrade.
Yeah, so we're doing the $30+ million park, and this is $100,000 of that component.
Through the CEO, thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. So just would like to clarify my earlier statements that the design of the embellishment of the Lighthorse Park has progressed beyond the consultation, concept and preliminary designs. It's now at a detailed design stage with a view to go into market to invite construction tenders. So there's limited opportunities now to change or make any significant changes, because we've gone through that process already. This project that we're looking at, or the subject of this report, is the installation of sculptures to I guess as a memorial for the to celebrate the 150th anniversary, which was in June this year. It's a low impact project, and there's a lot of flexibility as to where these sculptures can be incorporated and embedded within this massive park. So, and that's how the two have been designed. This has come later, but there's flexibility in the design to incorporate these sculptures into the park without changing the feel or the intent of what the Lighthouse embellishment works is designed to achieve. Hope this clarifies, Mr. Mayor.
So, Councillor Green, does that help?
Immensely.
Yep. So, Councillor Rhodes, based on that, is there to use Councillor Haggerty's view that the staff can walk and chew gum and it's moving along, do you still want to have a briefing regardless? I think a major project, council should be getting briefings regularly on them, especially something of this magnitude, because there is a lot to digest. But and I'm just struggling to see that difference then between the two motions then in reality.
One has got a workshop in it and the other one hasn't. Look, I'm not going to force a workshop onto councillors if they do not want to participate in it, because that would be silly, because nobody's going to turn up.
I'm happy to attend.
Good on you. So would I be happy to attend.
Yeah.
But to my way of thinking, it would be good to look at this, which has to be integrated into that, integrated into the master plan, to see what we're looking at.
Well, if I can just bring this up to another level just for a moment, yeah, I think this gets down to hopefully what can be resolved as we move forward with potentially some of the new committees we've been discussing having. Because when you're doing of these significant works, there's a lot of designs. We had a speaker here who unfortunately didn't turn up about Pioneers Memorial Park. I guess keeping councillors informed on a regular, ongoing basis about our designs of stuff that we're doing is, I think, this is what this gets down to. So I think that will provide us an opportunity for regular update.
With ample opportunity for councillors to make recommendations.
Through that process, yeah. I'll just refer to the GM, the CEO, please.
Look, thank you. The way it currently reads, it does say in consultation with council staff and councillors, you know, we can ensure that that consultation includes any councillors who want to meet with us and obtain any update they want. It can also include any committee that is also looking at this to be updated with not only the current work that is at a crucial stage, but the discussion of the artwork and the location of the artwork. I would respectfully submit that the way the motion recommendation reads, by going to consultation with councillors, you're actually already covered with that.
Can I just a simple change to the motion then, perhaps? Yes, Councillor. That number 2 reads, direct the CEO to procure an artist to develop and design for the artworks in consultation with council staff and councillors, and on the delivery and the placement of the artwork.
Yeah, makes sense. Yep. Second, are happy with that? Yep. Second, are happy with that?
Mr. Mayor, put the motion, please.
Are you happy with it first? I can't have, if you're not happy with it. I'll take that as a yes. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against.
Unbelievable.
The next item is Plan 03, page 146, tab 3, with the recommendation on page 147.
Happy to move that way.
Moved, Councillor Rhodes.
Seconded.
Seconded, Councillor McNaught. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? Declare it carried. Next item is Plan 04, page 176, tab 4, with the recommendation on page 176. About additional street names for Leppington.
Happy to move that way.
Move, Councillor Rhodes. Seconded, Councillor Harrell.
Just a question. I think a couple of years ago in this chamber, I spoke about a report in the news where people with strange street names have the values of their property devalued. Or there was research done where if you've got a strange name street, a similar street will have lower value. Just looking at some of these names, they're interesting. I would leave it at that.
They're very thoughtful. Thoughtful
Yes.
Avenue. Yeah. Kumbaya Street.
Kumbaya Street.
I salute you. Let's ask, what does woggle actually mean?
It's the pie thing.
That goes on you.
Page 178, I'm advised. It's in there. A woggle is a device to fasten the neckerchief? Neck scarf worn as part of the Scouts or Girl Guides uniform. Originated in the 1920s. Did you know that, Betty? You did. Yeah. Great. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare it carried. Next item is page 180, tab 5. The recommendation on page 80.
Okay.
The grants and donations.
No, somebody's got to leave.
Can I move a urgency motion, please?
1 second.
Let's deal with this.
We can move an amendment to the motion. Well, foreshadow, wouldn't it be? All right.
Let's just make a motion.
Yeah, just give us a second. No, he's not. No. So it's moved. Councillor Hadid. Just 1 second. You moved the motion?
Yeah, thanks.
You want to hear what he has to say first? Yeah.
To move the motion.
You had started moving. Yeah. What would you like to, Councillor Harold?
I would like to add to the sponsorship to the Luddenham show give them $5,000 as Penrith Council is doing. The problem is that it has to be done at this council meeting. If you wait until the next council meeting to put a notice of motion up to do that, you won't have enough time. I did prepare it, and it's up to council as to whether you want to use it as an urgency motion or if you want to add it to this grants and donations scheme.
So when is the Luddenham show?
It's in March, but the preparations for it, the printing and so on, has to occur in February.
So yeah, that doesn't. So if you want to move the motion, move the recommendation with an additional point of giving them $5,000
With an amendment.
Yeah, happy to do that.
That's so. Move that way, Councillor Hall. Seconded, Deputy Mayor. Yep.
Can I just ask a question? Happy to support, but has there been an application made by the Luddenham Show people?
Yes, they have, and the application they made, unfortunately, it doesn't fit in with the grants program as is, because the grants program is it basically gives grants to non-profit organisations. But what the Luddenham Show is doing, they're actually charging an entrance fee, and all the money they raise goes towards furthering the Luddenham Show for the following year. So that's where it doesn't quite fit in.
I just want to make sure they'd made an application.
No. We did try, but it unfortunately wouldn't work, and so this was the other way. And council has, in fact, given them similar grants in previous years.
Thank you.
I don't see how. Yeah, I don't think this needs to go on consultation. We've resolved numerous times. I think we're all right. But I think the message, Councillor Harrell, I think for everyone as well, is that so we've got these groups that have regular events, and I guess how do we get them into? How do we make their councils grants easier for them to go out there and to get on a regular basis?
Sorry, I was going to suggest that we make this a regular thing, because they have it every year. This is the 117th show that they've had, and the last time we did it was 115th, and because of COVID, there were some breaks. But again, they had problems previously applying because it just doesn't quite fit in with the grant scheme.
So maybe we can have a discussion once we get back next year about how we can refine the policy and make it even better.
Next time. Because, can we approve it this time round so that we can get it through?
Yeah, we can. We can resolve that way. We've done it before. You know what I mean? But I think the whole point. But once again, I'll go back to the point that people expressed a lot of concerns about doing it this way rather than following the process.
Exactly.
But all good. If everyone is happy, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare unanimous. Could someone please call the councillors to come back and join us?
So how do we get that through, Mazar? So how do I get that through? that we grant them $5,000, so we need to somehow do that. That's what I was going to do.
This is awkward. Next item is COM02, page 195, tab 6, recommendation on page 196, and I'm happy to move the motion.
Happy to second.
Second, Councillor McNaught. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it unanimous. Next item is Corp 01 Investment Report, page 234, tab 7, with the recommendation on page 235.
Move the recommendations.
Move, Deputy Mayor.
Just have a
Seconded.
question. It's happy to
Councillor
second
Rhodes.
it, yes,
Yep.
but have a question.
Councillor, can you turn off your mic, please? Councillor, thank you. Yes, Councillor
Yeah, thank
Rhodes.
you very much. The first question is, and I think that we've had it explained to us before. I know that if we were, the question is on what basis do the advisors believe that it is better for us to hang on to the Class A and C securities, the ones that, the ones that we are holding on to on the advice of the financial advisors, that there is more reason for us to hang on to them rather than to finalise them. It's only $145,000, but I just wanted to know what was the basis. What do they say that reason is? Do they have anticipations for the market changing in the future, or?
Through the CEO, I guess the advisors are looking at the realization amount that we will get when we sell it. So I think we will be getting a much lower amount when we put it in the market, because it's already lost its value, and then if we put it in the market, we're not able to...
Sorry, can you speak a bit more into your mic?
Can you hear me right?
Closer into the mic, please.
Thank you. To the CEO. So basically, the investment advisor looks at the realizable value of these investments when they put it in the market, and I understand that the expectation of getting a value above the market value currently is not possible, and that's why they're saying hang on to it. We're actually getting returns on it, and we are slowly getting repayment of the principal amount as well. So it's just the 10 year, it's going to take a little bit longer.
So the figure that it is stated there of the value of $145,000, would that be the value if we were to receive the correct value for those items that we hold?
Sorry, which page are you looking at?
If we were to sell them off, and I'm sorry I didn't keep the page that it is on.
Is that 247 the grand target securities? Is that in the table? Is that one of them?
Yeah,
yeah, that's the
1,000. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
So through the CEO, basically, I mean, we haven't put that in the market, so we don't really know what value we're going to get. But the advisors are saying we potentially will get less than the fair value that's stated currently.
Yes.
That makes sense, yeah?
It does make sense. I understand that we're not selling them because we're not going to realise the true value. My question really is, hang on to them is better off than to sell them at $140,000 loss. Is that how you read that that document?
Yes, so currently the market value is 473 below face value. So that's the loss we've already incurred. And if we sell it, we're going to incur more loss.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. If there's no further questions, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it unanimous. Next item is Corp 02, page 245.
I have a motion.
Tab with recommendation 246. Yes, what is your motion, councillor?
As per the book, without 3, 4 and 5.
I think that's out of order, councillor, because you need to, you have to apply, this is going to cost money, and you need to allocate money in order for it to happen.
So why haven't we allocated money to ECD 01 then? So we're going to put a whole bunch of heritage signs in the CBD, and we can absorb that cost. We're going to have a whole bunch of meetings, which council staff do all the time, but now we've got to find a cost for that.
Onto which item, sorry, are you referring to?
ECD 01.
Oh.
Have a look at that one.
ECD 01.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know we're not there, but I'm using that as an example.
Well, so thank you. As the chair, councillor, we're not there yet, and we'll deal with that when that gets there. But you've got a report here which basically says this policy is going to cost anywhere up to $1.1 million, from $133,000 to $1.1 million. So staff are making an estimate, which I think is fairly low. You can't adopt a policy and not have the funds to be able to do it. So it's out of order. So you got to turn around if you want.
Well, I don't think it's out of order.
Well,
we adopt policies all the time, and we don't put in budget allocations for staff to do their job.
So how are you going to run the policy if you have no funding towards it, councillor?
It will be absorbed within staff's ordinary duties. Staff have meetings with external stakeholders and lobbyists all the time.
Yeah, sorry, councillor. What's wrong with it? If you want to adopt, I'll put the money towards it. What's the issue? If you want the policy,
the issue is that this is an old trick we use where.
Sorry, councillor. Old trick.
It's an old trick. We've seen it all before.
Can you please define old trick, councillor?
We can just absorb this within the day-to-day.
Can you please define old trick or withdraw the statement, councillor?
I'll withdraw the statement, but I think that this can be absorbed within the ordinary duties of council staff.
Well, councillor, if I know you, I know some people might consider numbers old tricks, but there's a policy here which says it needs money to do. So.
Well, I disagree.
Just allocate. I don't know why we didn't just move the recommendation.
Because I think that's an extraordinary amount of money. It's not justified.
Okay, thank you. So, what's your motion, councillor?
1, 2, 5, and 6.
All right, great. I rule that out of order because it needs to be funded. There's a significant report in here that talks about how much money this policy requires. So, I can't sit here, the chair, accept a motion and a policy that's not funded to this extent. We're not talking about a few $1,000s. You just spend $100,000 putting for some statues around the place, but you don't want to spend money on a policy that you want to adopt. So, if you have another
Yeah?
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
To my knowledge, Office of Local Government working on a new policy.
Mm-hmm.
So the question: does the Office of Local Government finalize the policy?
My understanding, they haven't, but I'm happy to refer to the CEO.
Hasn't?
They haven't, from my understanding, but I'm happy to refer to the CEO. Pardon? No, they haven't. Councillor Green? Okay. Turn your mic on, Councillor. Deputy Mayor? Can you turn your microphone on, please?
Sorry. If the Office of Local Government hasn't finalized its policy, I would like to defer this item till we receive a finalised policy from the Office of Local Government.
All right. Do you have a seconder for that?
Happy to second with an amendment.
Second, Councillor McNaught.
If you would accept this amendment, Deputy Mayor, that we, point 1, that we reaffirm our support for the lobbying policy, similar to the point 1 of the previous motion from the 25th of May, and the point 6, that we divert development of this policy until the Office of Local Government issue their model policy.
Yeah. Are you happy with that? Councillor Green?
Can I...
Sorry, 1 second, Councillor Green.
I just would like to ask a question. I understand that these are assumptions. The funding is being based on assumptions. I recall when this first came to the chamber that Mr. Smith did say that this has been happening in terms of, meeting with lobbyists. That's been happening in the past, that people have been filling out the forms, the paperwork. This would bring it all together. So I'm wondering, when these assumptions were calculated, were the actual meetings that have been taking place taken into consideration in terms of basing what that funding is about? I mean,
so if I
do you understand what I'm saying?
Through the chair, so if I can clarify with Councillor Green, do you mean to ask if the existing practices were taken into consideration to the assumptions being made, which has resulted in the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, you've got one assumption there, 20 meetings per month per councillor. I mean, is that actually what is happening in reality in terms of paperwork that's already being filled out and filed? I'm just wondering where the assumptions have come from.
Does it,
through the CEO. So this is a lobbying policy which is new to local, which is obviously new to local government, and OLG, as you mentioned, is currently working on it. So currently, council, senior executive and councillors do get lobbied from time to time. What this policy actually does is bring some rigour, parameters and transparency around how that actually occurs. One of the mechanisms that we put is that there are staff present and the outcomes are recorded when lobbying does proceed, and obviously that then goes into a register and gets logged for transparency reasons. So we're actually introducing additional mechanisms through this policy which didn't exist prior. So we're not saying that lobbying didn't exist, but what we're doing is through a lobbying policy, we're actually formalising lobbying and making it more transparent, and there's a cost to that.
And through the chair, I understand that, but I'm just wondering where the numbers have come from. If it's something that's already happening and it's already being logged and people are already filling out the paperwork, I mean, I look at 20 meetings per councillor per month, and I'm just wondering, is that actually what's happening in reality?
I wonder, and this is possibly, you know, but the definition of lobbying contained in this draft policy opens itself to the fact that councillors may well be lobbied 20 times a month if we're defining lobbying the way it's being defined in this policy. So that, hence why I would like to wait for the Office of Local Government to get their guidelines on this.
The CEO.
Look, thank you. Look, I've had a good look at this before today's meeting. What you're really doing is you currently have a system. This is taking it to a much higher level. That involves more staff, more hours, after hours, more paperwork. This is an estimate of the cost. The staff have sat down and calculated. It is an estimate, but I was fairly confident with the way it was calculated. It's a matter of you can't ask us to have this new policy, have all of these put in, but you cut out all the expenses, and I'm meant to find the money somewhere. This is why this is being put to you in this way. So, you know, from my perspective as the CEO who is looking after the staff, either you don't have this policy at all, or you have to have it with funding so I can go ahead with it with the staff. Can I just remind you that this occurred from the ordinary meeting of 25 May, which is basically the first sentence, as a result of recommendations made by ICAC. And this is why this has come about. Now, understand, just to answer your question, why the extra money and how was it calculated, that's what I'm putting that to you. That's the reason.
Cool. Any other further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say a few things. I want to thank staff, first of all, for doing this reporting, because it's very important that we thoroughly understand the implications of bringing in a policy such as this. And I thank Council for drawing that to us, to this attention. Now, look, I've been very interested in this policy because I know that I am a councillor that is always listening to my constituents and taking recommendations and thoughts that could be viewed on many occasions as lobbying. And I bring those to council. But I bring them to council only if I can see that they are going to do things that will benefit council, be more efficient, take advantage of newer technology, save council money, or even sometimes to direct council's future strategic direction. And I look upon that as a part of my job. Now, I am already controlled by council by multitudes of regulations, acts and rules that is already a part of how we operate council. This lobbying policy actually relies upon those same rules. They're not creating new ones, so they're using the same rules to keep us councillors on the straight and narrow of being honest and doing things in the right way. I really appreciated the report, because I can see that each time if we were to adopt this policy with all the additional work, the paperwork, everything else, the extra time that it would take of staff, it would definitely slow things down. And I can see that every time we do that, there's approximate value of $2,500. Now, I am a councillor who does do that as a part of my job. I'm always encouraging council to think differently, have a look at this. I believe there is cost savings if we were to adopt it, and I do that as a part of my job. But if this policy came in, I can tell you that I'd be very happy, because if this policy doesn't come in, I am already saving council that amount of money by still bringing these ideas to council, which is basically what is the important thing, what we want to try and keep going. And I'm doing the same amount of money as what I'm being reimbursed as a councillor. So that made me very happy, and I will continue to keep on bringing as many of the ideas, and I do bring lots of ideas to this council, which I think that the council staff would be happy to support. And that I can see that this policy, it's going to cost council extra, it is going to slow things down. We might even have to wait months for an appropriate meeting time to be able to be accommodated if all the councillors are busy at the one particular time. There is lots of issues that I can see in this particular policy. I'm happy to defer it and have a look at how the local government goes about setting up a policy such as this. Because in actual fact, it's not really doing anything except making extra work. We currently do this, as councillors already know. We do this. I say we leave it alone. Let's see what the local government does, and then consider it at that particular point. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just questions. May I ask you who seconded Councillor Haggerty's motion? Because we start discussion and only finish.
That's ruled out of order.
That's it?
Oh, so the foreshadowed motion becomes the motion?
Yep.
Sir?
Well, I was speaking in favour of the motion. I think we should defer it. I'm a bit questionable. I'd like point one, that we thank council for all their work that they've put in bringing these reports. So thank council for their reports. If this is okay with the mover and the
mover,
seconder.
happy with that?
This is fine, mate, and I'm asking you just to put the motion.
Okay, we'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? Declare the motion carried. The next item is Corp 03, page 267, tab 9, with the recommendation on page 268.
Happy to move that with one
Moved Councillor Rhodes, seconded Councillor Green. Any discussion?
Just one small amendment to point 4. I know the council has proactively been doing this, and I appreciate what they're doing, but I would like in point 4 an extra, or just continue, and promote through social media, particularly the different groups in Liverpool LGA, because it seems that by putting things into those different groups throughout the entire LGA, we are actually getting traction in people understanding and getting knowledge of what we are doing. So it's just an addition in point 4, and promote through social media, particularly the different groups in Liverpool LGA.
Is the seconder happy with that? Councillor Green, are you happy with that as a seconder?
Yep, and social media is an important aspect.
Yep, right.
Can I just ask that we kind of...
Sorry, can you put your microphone on, please? Council Deputy Mayor, can you turn off your microphone, please?
Oh, sorry.
Can I just ask that we tighten up the wording on that? Because the idea of different groups, I think, applies for a particular platform, i.e. Facebook, which is my assumption.
No.
It was different Facebook groups.
Different Facebook groups. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Next item is ECD 01, page 273, tab 10 of the recommendation 274.
Point of order.
Yes, Councillor?
I'd like to rule this motion out of order because there's no budget allocation for it.
I'll have to overrule, Councillor, because no one has moved the motion yet. So thank you for your enthusiasm. No, this is the ECD 01 about the local heritage publication grant and digital signs.
All right, I will move that motion with some additions to it.
I will raise a point.
You'll have to include some money in there.
Well, yeah, we want consistency.
Thank you. Thank you for drawing that to Council's attention. The additional points would be point 3, invite collaborative discussions through the Tourism and CBD Committee and deliver councillor work, well, you don't like workshops, committee.
Point of order.
Upon...
Oh, just the comment about we don't like workshops. I don't know who that was directed at, but I don't think any councillor objects to workshops. I think
okay,
they
then I
object
will
to
leave it as I've
workshops.
written it in. I thought there was an objection before. Invite collaborative discussion through tourism and CBD committees and deliver councillor workshops included in the development of the dedicated QR website process so that we can get input into how the QR website process is going to operate, what it's going to have in it. And number 4, promote on council website and through social media, including all Liverpool LGA Facebook groups, the availability of the heritage publication grants, which are new, and we've got to get that word out to the community that it is available. And number 5, make finance available through the general reserve, whatever our normal wording is.
Well, firstly, do you have a seconder for your motion? Seconder, Councillor McNaught. I should point out, if everyone has read the report on page 275, under the financial implications, the costs associated with this recommendation have already been included in the council's tourism budget.
Oh, well, there you go.
And the website will be funded from funds redirected from council's sister city relationship budget.
Excellent. Remove point 5.
Yeah, which was as per the September council meeting. Oh, yeah, so we allocated fund backs then as well. Great. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare it carried. Committees.
Can we move them as a whole, please?
I just need one alteration to one of the committees, CTTE04, the Civic Advisory Committee.
Yep, what is it?
It's just simple. I chaired that meeting, so I was the acting chair at that meeting. That was all.
Okay, great. They moved as a whole. Second by Councillor Calianda, seconded Councillor Moon. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. And if you could please make the point raised by Councillor Rhodes. Questions with notice. Councillor Haggerty, page 313. 30 kilometre speed limit.
Yeah, I submitted this one in November, but for some reason it didn't make the book. So some oversight there. But excellent news is we've gotten rid of the 30 kilometre speed limit. Well done to Ben Fordham. I would like to move a motion.
Yes, Councillor.
That council write to Minister Ward requesting that all fines within the 10 kilometre range during the trial period at the Big Street camera be refunded.
Yep.
Mayor, can we just have a decorum in terms of the their microphones.
Oops, sorry. Do we know whether that's legally possible to be done?
Look, my view is this. There is nothing stopping council from writing to a minister saying we would ask that you consider doing X. What we can't do is we demand that you do X, or we enforce you to do X. But there's nothing to stop us, like anybody writing to them, saying we request that you consider doing the following. If that's okay with the councillor.
Yeah, it's all right. We can change it. Change this word. There's nothing wrong with it.
To consider.
Well,
so
Mr. Mayor, at the end of the day, the council can't force the state government,
of course not.
To change its decision.
Councillor Haggerty, I just want some clarification. You want to thank Ben Fordham. Can you please explain why?
I believe it was he got Minister Ward on his show on the Friday, and it was there that she announced that she was reversing that decision. So he had applied pressure all week. I don't know if you were on Ben Fordham earlier in the week, but he, we'd all been trying. I was in the paper about 18 months ago. People had been complaining to me. You'd campaigned on it. I campaigned on it. We did community consultation. The request had been sitting on the minister's desk for close to 2 months, I think, and we just couldn't get it to budge. And then Ben Fordham ran a little bit of a campaign during that week, and by the end of that week, she had reversed her decision. So,
can we just put everything to Ben Fordham then, let him do all our advocacy, lobbying work for us?
He's on holidays at the moment.
When he gets back, we'll get it ready for him. Because I tell you, because from you, so basically what you're saying is the staff had nothing to do with it, the councils had nothing to do with it. It was purely Ben Fordham.
No, I just acknowledged the fact that the community, myself, yourself, staff had been lobbying on this issue.
Councillor, I think you need to be respectful of the staff in this organisation, because it's a quite disrespectful comment. When you went out there and basically say that, the staff had nothing to do with it.
When I start accusing staff of lying online, then you can talk to me about treating staff with respect.
I haven't finished, Councillor Haggerty.
Point of order. Can I please move that the motion be put?
I'm sorry, Councillor, I'm standing, right? And when I stand, councillors have to listen to this. To go out there and tell the staff it did nothing, I can tell you now, Charles Waif, our manager of transport, had a significant amount of work and effort put involved in this.
I didn't say they did nothing.
No. But you made comments saying, let's just thank Ben Fordham that he did all this work. A lot of background work is actually happening. I'm sure it's not all on Facebook, that it's not discussed every blow by blow and the discussions and the different technical work that had to be done to this, councillor. So if you're going to sit there and just reproduce comments that we see online, I think it's a bit immature, councillor, and you should consider your role as a councillor and how you treat the staff and what the message that it sends to them.
Okay. Well, as I said, the day I start accusing staff on Facebook of lying, then we can have a chat about treating staff with respect. So I treat staff with utmost respect with my duties. I think they do a hell of a job, and at every opportunity I thank them. So thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Can I now move that the motion be put?
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. There's only one motion. Oh, sorry. Can you put your microphone on, Deputy Mayor? Can you put I can't hear you.
Sorry. So now I have asked in regard of requesting that, consider that. That council right to the Minister Ward requesting be changed by consider. Because at the end of the day, us as a council, we can't force the state government to change any decision unless they are happy with it. At least we have to be very polite with the minister to consider the decision made in the past. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor, are you happy to change the word? Councillor Haggerty is happy to change that. All right. We'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Declare it unanimous. Next item is page 331, page 18. Councillor Haggerty.
Can I thank the staff for their work in replying to this one? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Green and Harl, page 333, QWN 03, tab 19.
I conferred with Councillor Ha. We're happy with the response. It's very comprehensive, and yeah, we're happy to accept the explanations.
Thank you. So, councillors, we'll now move into the addendum, of which there is one item, CO01, delegation requirement. I'm happy to move recommendation.
I have a question about it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Is there a seconder?
I'm happy to second the motion. I just have a question.
No worries. What's your question?
The question is that a part of that motion is the consideration of the community committee meetings, and I have a problem. I need to know when those committees will be considered by this council. It says 2023. Do we have a date that they will be considered?
In the first week of February meeting.
It will be considered at that.
It'll be considered there with all.
Thank you. My reason for asking is because we are minus one West Rock committee meeting person, so we need to have that done in the first week of February. Thank you.
Any other further discussion?
Yeah, just a question. In terms of sort of what goes first, I know that at the previous council we changed the way we approve appointments to the community reps to the planning panel. So if we're approving existing delegations, does that override that? Or does the motion we passed last month override this? I think because currently what we were told last month, the CEO approves appointments of community reps to the planning panel. We moved a motion to change that last month. We're now moving a motion to enforce existing delegations. It's sort of chicken or egg. Which one's come first here?
I would assume that the if your motion next gets up, then that will amend that. That will amend what we just resolved now, or update it. Yeah. Do you want to, sorry, through the CEO?
Yeah, through the CEO, Councillor, if your motion NOMO 1 does get up, then obviously that's a standalone resolution of council, and obviously we would then be reporting community representatives back to the council meeting for you to determine rather than the CEO.
Just making sure we get the order right and we don't sort of undo the work we've done.
What's subsequent in time prevails.
Right. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. I'll now call a recess till 3:45. Thank you. I'd like to declare the meeting officially reopened. Everyone back?
Yes.
Alrighty. So we'll now move on to the NOMs. First item is NOM 01, page 336, tab 20, with recommendation on page 336. Councillor Haggerty?
Yep. I think we had a good chat about this one last meeting, so happy to move as per the recommendation. Move the motion.
Seconded. Councillor Calienda?
I have a foreshadowed motion.
Yes, Councillor McNaught.
My foreshadowed motion is that we leave the planning panel as is and continue the function as usual.
Do you have a seconder? Seconded. Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Haggerty, let's speak for your motion.
Yep, as I said when I brought this up last time, we had our planning powers taken off us, which I didn't think was a good idea at the time. All of us get contacted about contentious development issues, DAs, planning proposals, whatever. We are elected to represent the community and speak up on their behalf. So any move that waters that down, I have an objection to. So the government has done what it what it's done. It's changed the law and it's got local planning panels. That's fine. We fought and we got community reps on these panels, which is a very good development. All I'm asking for is that us, as the representatives of the community, approve who the community reps are on the planning panel when it comes to DAs up to $30 million in value. As I said in the previous meeting, no slight on the existing CEO, any previous CEO, but most of, they wouldn't know most community members from a bar of soap. We do. We know lots of community members. We know them well. We know their history. We know whether they got the expertise and the passion to do the job. And that's why I think it should be up to the elected body to approve who sits on the planning panel.
Great. Councillor McNaught, would you like to speak, any other speakers for the motion? Yeah, the second.
For the substantive motion?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I think beyond what Councillor Haggerty has just mentioned, it's also important for us to understand the perspectives that the community representatives bring to the table. And, just like we recently had with the selection of the CEO, we're able to understand their history, we're able to understand their work experience and the skills and capabilities that they bring as the representatives of the community on this panel, which is incredibly important. If you look at any of the community Facebook pages, if you look at the communications that we as councillors get from community members, development approvals and issues surrounding development approvals are one of the main sources of contact we get from residents. So why would we not want to be sure of who is representing the community on these panels and the skills and capabilities that they bring, and also fundamentally that they are a member of our community rather than someone that's just been shipped in from elsewhere. And I think that's incredibly important and something that our community would want us to do.
Thank you.
Can I ask a couple of questions? Do we actually have members that are not community, actually from our community, that are on the local planning panel? I thought that was one of the stipulations, that they had to be from our community.
Through the CEO, I might refer to Director of Planning.
Thank you. Through the CEO, no, all community representatives have to be local
members, as I thought. And do we have any current members that have served longer than 6 years?
My understanding, no, but if they are, they automatically lapse. So you're appointed for 3 years, you can apply you can be appointed for another 3 years. It's very similar to the local health districts. Once you've done the maximum of 60 years, you cannot be reappointed, you must be replaced.
And is there a timeline on that?
It's from the day they're appointed, first appointed.
But they're replaced, but can they be considered to go back onto that panel at a later date, even though they've served 6 years?
Not on the same panel.
Okay, excellent. That's interesting.
So you could be on a panel for Liverpool City Council, do your 6 years, go off, and you could always apply to be on a panel in Newcastle or a panel in Gosford.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Look, I understand
Provided you're a local, you've moved.
You have to live in the community.
I didn't want to make it look like you live in Liverpool and go to Gosford.
No, understood. Thank you for those questions. Can I speak against the top motion? And look, I understand your concerns. I've been to those local planning panels. It's very, very difficult for our constituents to actually ever get positive outcomes out of those the planning panels. And I know how frustrating and unfair it all seems to be. I love the bit about, new buildings, they're not compliant because they're not customary in that particular area. And when they bring that up as a complaint, it just gets said, oh, well, one day it'll all look like that. Okay, well, that's one day. It's not now. And that one just frustrates me to hell. But the difficulty that I have with this motion that we do what is being proposed is that, to me, it does lend itself to be perceived that councillors are selecting people, that there's more ability for manipulation with the councillors selecting these people.
Can I just interrupt you there for a moment, Councillor Rhodes, if it's all right? I just want to get some clarification from the councillors, the movers and seconders of the motion. So you made the comments that we as councillors, which I agree that we know the community members better. So in going through this process, would you just like to put it out there and then X amount of names, 20 names, whatever comes back, comes to councillors and we make a decision on that? Or do you want staff to conduct an assessment? Because I just want to see how if there is a staff assessment process, then how does that align to your comments about that, well, we know the community better? Because I'm just thinking, do we just skip that process and just make the decision? So I just want to get clarification on that.
No, the same way we do it for every other committee or panel. The staff will have a set of criteria which they follow. They assess the applicants against that. They make a recommendation, and council either endorses or rejects the recommendation.
So once again, just for clarity, so you're saying run the process, let staff do their criteria, score accordingly, which I think, correct me if wrong, can I refer to the CEO what happens now?
Thank you. Through the CEO, yes, that's the exact process. We call for expressions of interest. When we notify a call for community representatives, there is clear criteria that needs to be assessed against. Staff assess it against those, and a selection committee is formed, and a recommendation is then made from the DA manager up to the Director of Planning and up to the CEO at the moment. And the CEO appoints accordingly. If this was to change, as I read the notice of motion, all that still occurs. The only difference would be, instead of the recommendation from staff going to the CEO, it would go to the governing body of council, and they would either confirm or not.
So you've got a criteria that's established,
correct,
and then you make recommendations accordingly. So I just want to, Councillor Haggerty, how was that different? Do you have a different set of criteria you'd like the staff to use, or because if they've gone through a process, I'm just wondering, why would councillors choose number 5, who, for example, that ranked rather than number 1?
Well, it's up to individual councillors to make their own decisions. I'm not going to speak on behalf of individual councillors, but it's the same thing we're going to do with, Confo 4. So recommendations are put to us, and we can either approve those or reject them. And there's been occasions over my 6 years where a councillor, recommendations been put to the council, and the councillors or councillors have flagged issues or problems with people that were recommended or ones that weren't. And the fact that we are working in the community day in, day out, we know the community, many of us have grown up here and are raising our family here. We know this community very, very well. And our level of input in these kinds of things is frankly much more, provides much more value and much more insight sometimes than staff.
All right. So just so I'm clear, so then say staff run the process, do the thing, but ultimately, you as a councillor, you choose who you want through from that list that's there.
Yes. So we are an elected body. We're elected to make decisions on behalf of the community, and I believe this is a decision that the elected body should make. If we want to leave everything up to the recommendations of staff, what are we doing here today?
I think. Sorry, Councillor Rhodes, for interrupting, but yes, I'll get that
that's okay. I just have a question. Sorry, Nazar. In view of that, and how this first originated, it was to distance councillors from having any sort of influence on planning matters. So, Councillor Haggerty, in your motion, do you think that you are addressing that? That's the reason why this was brought in and it was left up to the CEO. in the first place.
This is not a planning matter. This is an appointment to a committee. Every other council in
No,
New
but
South
the
Wales
members-
endorses these recommendations. We are the outlier here.
Yep. Thank you.
I'd be interested in that, but anyway, what other councils do. But yes, sorry, Deputy Mayor. Can you put your microphone on, please? Councillor Rhodes, can you turn yours off?
Well, after reading the acting CEO comments in regard of Section 2.18.1 of the Environmental Planning Assessment Act 1979 provide that members of the local planning panel are to be appointed by council. It seems to me there is some confusion in this regard. So who the council? Are the electing members or the staff? So therefore, may I request my both colleagues to defer this item and request local government, Office of Local Government, some sort of explanations to now. We should appoint them or the council staff. So in this regard, it will be very clear. Because if council allowed to elect the panel members, well, it is our right to go that way. If the council staff, end of the story. But from my own experience for the last 15 years, in the past, used to be council staff send us a recommendation and we adopt the recommendation or change it. So now, as long as there is some confusion in this regard the section 2.18.1, so I may ask the CEO to request some clarification from the Office of Local Government in this regard, and for time being, may I ask my boss colleagues to defer this item for next meeting. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, I think that was the discussion. We had this discussion at the last meeting with the Director of Planning. So I think like I said, there's that line that basically it doesn't say whether it's under delegation. It's a decision for council. I think that's where we landed last time. It's whether council, would you like staff to run the process, make recommendations, and councillors overrule them as a governing body, or would you like staff to run the process and then they adopt that, and that's adopted under delegation? I think
as I said, Mr. Mayor, in the past, we used to receive recommendation from the council staff, and a council as a governing body used to approve it or disapprove it or do amendment to it.
So can I just ask though, having not spoken for the foreshadowed motion yet, but in this information and preamble from the acting CEO's comments, since 2006, the General Manager or CEO has appointed the community representatives. So that would indicate that that's what has happened the entire time that we have had these panels.
So IHAP was being adopted under delegation, under delegated authority, the members, which makes sense because it's independent panel. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Well,
so
if I ask another question, how many years left for the current panel?
Okay, that's good. That's an excellent question. My understanding is that there was still a couple of years. I don't have a list of each and every one, but my understanding is there's at least 1 year, if not 2 years, and they start to be churned, if I can use that in a nice way. We start to look at if any have expired 6 years, etc.
Well, in this case, well, look, if it's only a short times left, I don't want to have a big mess with the members now and it starts changing them and have like a fight with the members and create a better publicity. So if it's a short period, just leave it as is from now on. Any new appointment has to go through the council staff and come back to the council as a governing body to be approved.
Councillor Howell, did you want to say something? You've been waiting patiently.
I agree with what Councillor Hadid is saying. And, as a councillor, we did in the past choose the actual candidates. And I distinctly remember challenging one of them, and it was because a previous person had been appointed to that panel and then had asked to put in his CV for the new panel. And unfortunately that CV didn't arrive, and so that person wasn't re-elected. And I suggested at the time that it was actually a previous councillor. And in my opinion, a previous councillor
probably has more experience in what's needed in the community than just picking someone at random. Now, I know council staff goes through the selection process, and what used to happen, they did that. Those results were sent to council. Council analysed those and voted on the recommendations. That's how I believe it should be, and I agree maybe we need to get further clarification from the Office of Local Government on that, but I believe council laws should be making the decision.
Can we have confirmed again how long the CEO has been making the decision at council? Because I thought it was from 2006. Is that correct or not?
So through the CEO, we've reviewed the IHAP Charter going back, and that's what the IHAP Charter said. Now, as it says in the acting CEO comment, at the end of the day, it is a matter for council. So if council wants to make the decision to appoint community members, they're able to. If they want to change the current practice, what the IHAP Charters used to say, that is a matter for council.
So can we have the records show us how long this council has been delegating it to the CEO? And can we see the motion where we delegated it to the CEO and look at the reasons why that decision was made?
I'm happy to take that on notice, and I'll leave it, and I'll take on notice the earlier question as to when each panel member's term, when they were first appointed, and when each panel member's term has expired.
So,
or is due to expire.
So I wonder in the foreshadowed motion then if we could leave the function as...
Point of order.
Oh.
We can't be editing foreshadowed motions. We've got a motion before us.
Yeah, we've got to deal with the motion. Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry, can I just clarify something? There seems to be some sort of false equivalence here between, it's either done by staff or it is some sort of aspersion as to the capacity and the confidence that council has in our staff, and I actually don't think that's the heart of the issue here. So can I just clarify the comments that were made before in terms of, it's either this way or we fundamentally don't trust staff, because I don't think that's the situation at hand.
I don't know, that wasn't, I'm not sure if you interpreted it that way, that wasn't the intention of it, but ultimately it's saying that, like, I was just trying to go into, I guess, both of your statements, which said, we know the community better. I think we said that, right? So if we know the community better as councillors, which once again, I do agree with that. And that's our role under the Act, to facilitate communication between the community and council. But then staff run a process, a technical process with criteria and a selection base. Then how does we know the community better match with that? And if this process comes forward and says, well, here's our recommendations, but hold on, we know the community better. So don't worry about this, and we're just going to do what we want anyway. So that's why I'm just saying that it's like, well, which one is it? So basically what I'm saying is, I think from what I gathered is, run a process, and we'll still, if we're not happy with that, then we know the community better, and that's our justification for doing something differently, right? And
that's where I'm not seeing that kind of, that's where I'm finding that's a bit of a false equivalence. So going back to Councillor Hadid's point, the process is there to support the decision that hopefully councillors make at the final pass. So, the process is there to provide full council with options, which we can then decide upon based on the information that's in front of us, like we do with every community committee membership. That's the way that's been done for years in terms of council, if I'm not incorrect.
Yep. Can I speak against the motion, the motion in front of us, and thereby speaking for the foreshadowed motion? I think for part of what we're saying, we're all in very fierce agreement that we do know our community better than, we know our own communities better than a lot of people do. And to that end, I think that we should be encouraging people who we believe would be great representatives on this panel to apply through the channels that we have now for the planning panel positions. I think that we should be actively encouraging people to apply for that. My issues stem from the fact that we have a panel so that councillors are at arm's length to these decisions. And I think by directly influencing positions selection to that panel, you are no longer at arm's length to what happens in those discussions. So I am very aware that I'm happy with that separation from the decision. I'm very happy for us to encourage our community members who do know the business of what needs to happen in planning matters to apply through the channels that we have now. I note that all of our members currently fit all of the criteria. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for that information. And so we allow, and considering that we have done this since 2006 in this manner, I'm very comfortable leaving it as it is, with us potentially taking a more active role in encouraging people who we believe should sit on those committees, as with other committees of council, to apply for those roles and be assessed against the criteria.
Thank you, Councillor Green.
I have a question following on from Deputy Mayor. If in section 2.18.1 that the panel is to be appointed by council, if our practice is not in line with the legislation, then aren't the appointments that are being made, are they even lawful? If our practice does not fit with the legislation, I guess I would be questioning the lawfulness or the appropriateness or voiding it. I mean, you know, it's not in line, so how can it be consistent with the legislation? Our practice must be consistent with legislation.
Look, thank you. I don't believe what's occurred is in any way inconsistent with the legislation, because what has occurred at a very minimum, that if council is empowered to appoint, council is also empowered to delegate to the CEO, and that's what has occurred in the past. If council was not empowered, then nobody can appoint these representatives. So Councillor Hegarty is saying that, in effect, remove the delegation to the CEO and bring it back to the council. But you have the right to delegate to me, and that's what I understand happened in 2006 and has continued, that delegation. So I don't think there is any invalid appointment, if I can use that term. The simple question that's being asked is, you know, are you going to remove that delegation now, or do you want to continue with the status quo? I think that's the reality of it. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, Councillor Hegarty.
Councillor Harrell?
Look, as a councillor, as Councillor Hadid said, in the past, I distinctly remember voting on the candidates that were presented to council, 100% for sure. How many times, I can't remember, but I certainly did in the last 14 years as a councillor. Now, there is another issue. With this, it involves transparency. Right? And the problem is no negative comments on staff at all. But the point is, if staff appoints these people and councillors do not know who they are, they haven't looked at their resumes, they have no idea of their expertise, I think that is not transparent. And therefore, for that reason alone, I think it should come to council. They can then look at all of those CVs and all the points that were made. Same as we do for the civic committees when we decide on who's going to get the Order of Liverpool awards, all of those things, we as councillors go through that and decide who is the best person. We may not always agree on it, but certainly it comes to council and council makes that decision. And that's what I think it should be. It should be transparent. I don't have any issues with that. Anyway.
Councillor Rose.
Can I suggest that there must have been a reason in 2006 as to why it was delegated to the CEO. I request again, can we have that information brought back before this council so we can see why that decision was made and is it still relevant today? Let's see why the decision was made. So I'm sorry to go back to the foreshadowed motion, but I think we should leave the planning panel as it is, defer it until that information can be brought back to council so that we've got all the information in front of us. We know when it was, what it was and why it was, and then make a decision from that point.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, well, look, Mr. Mayor, I always believe in win-win situation, you know what I mean? So I don't mind to support the foreshadow. It's moved by my colleague, Councillor make note.
The foreshadowed one, yeah.
So, one, that council leave the panel, planning panel as is and continue the function as is. And two, from now on, the council staff will go through the process, appointing members of the panel, send the recommendation for the council to approve it, disapprove it, or amend it, whatever. It's a win-win situation. In this case, let me tell you, Councillor Mignot, we are not interfering in the process. The whole process goes through the council staff, and the council staff will encourage everyone to apply for this job. But it is our right to look at it and approve it or disapprove it or amend it. Thank you.
Councillor McNaught.
I'm not in 100% agreement with that statement because of the reasons that I put forward for the foreshadowed. However, I'm happy to amend to continue the planning panel function as it is, and then I'd like in the new year sometime. So understanding that we have 2 years left on this panel now, I would like to understand, perhaps workshop it a little bit more to understand what would happen if these recommendations came to council and certain councillors don't want one of the recommendations to go through, what then happens next? Do councillors go through and pick from the bucket of names and CVs? Because if that's the case, that's not different. That could not be considered independent then, and it muddies the water. So there would have to be a more stringent process if there was somebody who's... I have no problem, I guess, if there is a consensus that there is a person who has been recommended that for some reason we don't think fits the mould, but I do not want then the councillors to choose the next person. I believe that needs to come from the process. I don't want us to be appointing to the panel.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment. And just once again, if I can lift it up for a moment, the criticism of the state government took away our planning powers. I want to remind council, I put up a mayoral minute, I think it was 2015, not far off of it, which basically said voluntarily that council, as a governing body, does not make any more decisions on DAs. We delegated all DAs to the staff, and if there was a problem that came up, that the community had a significant incident, then we could have an ability to call the matter up before council, right? But that was a leading reform. I think Waverley had done it initially, and then we decided to do that. And it was done by mayoral minute because it's keeping it away. I think the best we have nothing to do with the process, then no one can cast any aspersions on anything going forward. Right? So I think... it's worked. To your point, Councillor Hall, I think council may have voted once on appointing panels. We never appointed IHAP, I don't think, but I'd be very interested to see if that was the case. But I know once again, council led the process by having IHAP. But look, I think everyone's had a lot to say.
Can I have my point taken on notice? And can I please have that information brought back to me, even not through council, independently, but I want to know why the decision was made in the first place, who made that decision. Thank you.
I've taken all three aspects of the questions on notice.
Thank you.
Can I just tighten up point 2, sorry, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go for it.
And I'm sorry, I am saying this on the fly, Susan, sorry. In 2023, a workshop be organised to define the process of recommendation to the panel should councillors reject one or more nominations. Oh, sorry, one or more of the presented recommendations.
Is the seconder happy with that?
At least it gives me time to find out actually what did happen at council.
Cool. All right. Councillor Haggerty, would you like your right of reply?
Yep, and I'll keep it brief. Councillor Hall made a fantastic point, which is ultimately, regardless of the decisions that staff make, sometimes, you know, we're the elected body, we're the ones that get hauled before inquiries and commissions and all kinds of things, and ultimately held responsible. And I make the point of Central Coast Council, that ultimately it was the councillors that were held responsible for what happened at Central Coast Council. If you do a board course, normally I'll bring up the Centro case, which is a case from about 10, 15 years ago, where the defence that the directors gave was I didn't get enough information in my board pack. The court found that too bad, it's your job as a councillor or a director to ask for more information. So the point I'm making here is ultimately we are responsible for these decisions. This is not something I'm comfortable delegating, and it shouldn't be something anyone else delegates. That someone will be on this panel, is appointed by staff and is making decisions in relation to DAs up to $30 million. I think in terms of accountability and transparency, that should be a decision that we as councillors make. I'll repeat the point that no, I did a straw poll. No one else in any council I could find in New South Wales does this. It always comes to the elected body. I also checked with the Shadow Minister for Local Government. He also said that. And I'll just end by saying I have no issues with the current panel. But this is not about the current panel. This is about the process. And we as the elected body should at least see and approve who goes on to this panel.
Thank you. I'll put the motion as moved by Councillor Haggerty. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? Deputy Mayor? You still thinking? 1 second before the... So you vote against the motion. Right, it's a vote against. So division's been called. All those in favour, please stand. Councillor Carneva is standing as well. I think you dropped off. Those against? Declare the motion lost. We now have the foreshadowed motion.
That was 5-4 by my count.
Councillor, the Deputy Mayor voted, by not voting, he voted against.
You got to leave the chamber.
Well, he didn't leave the chamber. So he has to say, take a voted against. Yeah. All right. Foreshadowed motion. Well, now I think we've had enough debate.
Sorry, can I propose an amendment to the foreshadowed?
Yeah.
Which one is it? Sorry. Point 3, that future appointments be reported to council.
I think that would be, that's the purpose of the workshop.
I think, yeah. Is the mover and seconder happy with that?
I don't think that makes any difference. That's fine.
No.
I'm happy with that. That's fine.
Cool.
That's what I said from the beginning. From now on, the council will receive all the recommendations from the council staff, going through the whole process and send it to council as governing body. So this is the point from the beginning.
That's not the same thing, Deputy Mayor. That's not the same thing. Yeah. You're asking for a report to come to council after the panel has been empanelled. A report comes to council to tell us who those members are. That's what point 3 means there, to my understanding. Am I wrong?
No, it says all the recommendation has to come to council.
Look, councillors, we've had enough debate about this. If you want, bring it up with the staff afterwards in an appropriate process. But I think everyone's had enough say on the matter. I'll put the motion All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? Declare the motion carried. Next item is Nom 02, page 339, tab 21, recommendation on page 340.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Council, for your report. We do have a problem with our schools, so basically I'm going to keep the motion with a 1, thank Council for their report. 2, hold a number, point of order.
Thank you. Councillors, can you give the Council Rhodes your attention, please?
Number 2, hold a number of individual consultation meetings with the community and all schools within the Liverpool LGA where there are reported traffic problems regarding the drop-off and pick-up of students to investigate ways of addressing issues on our public roads. And number 3 is the same. We've got to keep the pressure on. Our brownfield sites have definite issues, and we need to think outside the square. The possibility is for us to look at surrounding lands that might be able to be used as drop-off points for schools. We've got to think outside the square and try and stop the education system using our public roads as parking spaces and drop-off zones for students. So the motion just stands as it is.
Great. Do you have a seconder? I'm happy to second the motion. Any discussion? I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. We now go into confidential...
Nomo 3.
Oh, sorry, I double striked out. My apologies. How could I forget? Nom 3, thank you, councillors. Page 343, tab 22, recommendation on 344. Mount Omai?
Mount Omai, I think, is the pronunciation, Mayor.
Omai.
Yep, I'll move it as per the book.
Happy to second it.
Moved,
fantastic,
seconded.
Fantastic. Yep.
Put the motion.
Yeah, put.
All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried.
Bring up anything for tourism.
So confidential items. No, it's all good. We'll go through this, and please let me know, councillors, if you want to go into closed session, but we'll keep on moving. Confo 1, page 510, recommendation 511.
Move that way.
Move Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor McNaught.
No,
Any discussion?
I had a motion to defer this.
Oh, this one, yep, sorry. Oh, yep. Yep, Councillor, Deputy Mayor, happy to accept the deferral?
I'd like to defer because I'd like to understand any future cost implications that may be worn by council, bearing in mind other projects that have come to us, such as Powerhouse Road at the moment, that was dedicated to council, and now we have a bill for around a lot of money. I won't talk about figures to get that fixed. And so I'd like to defer so that we can get a little bit more information about what may come our way later on.
Yeah, happy to say.
All right, move that it be deferred, seconded.
Sorry, just a question to the relevant director. Is this time sensitive?
Through the CEO, no, it's not.
Okay. All right, put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Next item is Conf 02, page 517, 518.
Move it.
Moved, Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Moon. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Conf 03, page 522, recommendation on page 533.
Move.
Moved, Councillor Rhodes, seconded Councillor Moon. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Okay.
Without talking specific numbers, can I ask the relevant staff member, there's quite a difference in price per area for these two parcels. Just a brief explanation of why.
Through the CEO, I'd have to take that on notice and understand what the reasoning behind that, councillor.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Any discussion? I'll put the motion.
On that, then, should we wait for that to come back before we should perhaps defer that and wait for that information to come? It was quite a considerable difference.
Look, I can provide a bit of an explanation if it's like.
Oh, okay.
I think it's about the underlying land value, right? So that land is effectively developable land. It's got, from what when you look at the surrounding map land around it, it's all R zoned and there's a school zone, which basically means there's no creeks, there's nothing running through it, doesn't look like any environmentally sensitive land. So therefore the land itself is good land. The zoning though says, it's infrastructure, we need to buy this. But the value is based upon what you can actually potentially do with the land. Versus the other person, their land is, they've got a creek running through the middle of it and they've got environmentally sensitive land all around it, E4 living. So it's got, even if it was R zoned, you probably couldn't develop it.
Thank you. That's all I was after, just an explanation.
Yeah. What can I remember looking a few years back, if I can put this to the staff, that Camden Council would publish on their website the rate per square metre they would pay per land for R-zoned land and things like that. Because I think, and I get that question often, what's council paying for this block of land? And I'm like, I don't know, like, what are they paying for green land? I have no idea, but I think it would be good to provide that transparency if we could, but yeah. Something worth discussing in the future.
We'll take that on.
Thank you.
Come back.
Thank you. Well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Australia Day Awards. Anyone have any recommendations? Oh, sorry, you stepping out, Councillor? No worries.
Move as per the book.
Move Councillor Calienda. Seconded Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Feel free to come back and join us, or someone can let know. Conf 05, page 623, recommendation on 624.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Rhodes, seconded. Councillor McNaught, any discussion? Put the motion, all those in favour? Against, declare it carried. Conf 06, page 628, recommendation on 629.
Can't remember.
Don't be shy. I'll move it. Seconder, Councillor Moon, any discussion? Put the motion, all those in favour? Against, declare it carried. Conf 07, page 633.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Rhodes. Second Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried. Next item is Conf 08, page 641.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Rhodes. Seconded. Councillor Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried. Next item, Conf 09, which is in the confidential addendum booklet, number 3. I'm happy to move that way. Seconder, Councillor Carneeb, any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Thank you very much, everyone. I declare the meeting officially closed. And can I wish everyone, to all the councillors and all the staff, a very Merry Christmas and a happy and blessed New Year. And thank you all for your for this year. And I'll just pass on to the CEO. I'd like to say something.
Yes. I just want to take the opportunity to, again, thank you for the honour of being appointed the new CEO and looking forward to working with you all over the next 5 years. Also an opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas. I will be returning to my office now. If any councillors or any staff members would like to join me there, I intend to be there for an hour just for an opportunity to have a chat before, since this is the last meeting till February.